is now on.
Let's check that.
It looks on here.
It does say private. So...
Give it a second.
Yeah.
It's thinking about... Oh, there we go. Now we're live. Now people can see us looking at the studio dashboard.
It still says private. Let me pull it up on here.
Yeah.
This will tell me if it's working or not. Oh, well, there you go. What's that symbol?
There we go.
Hello, Sumo fans.
Hello, Sumo fans. Live.
Our first time.
Just off the seat of our pants, sort of.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
See if we like it. See if you guys like it. You know, do our thing, our normal thing.
Yeah, we will. We're gearing up right now. This is we're getting the set ready.
Trying to get all this crazy tech. Oh, we already have a volume thing going on.
Nah, no big deal. You can mute the stream probably, or mute the tablet either way.
Yeah, I totally don't want to be.
Yeah, well, this is a minute. I mean, give a couple minutes.
Yeah, people need time to find it
Pile
anyway.
in. Oh, we figure out the tech behind this.
Yeah, I actually lost the chat for some reason. The video's here, but not the chat. So we're going to just go right back into that. Give people a chance to find us.
Get back into the chat. Here to discuss the
craziness.
We knew it's one of those things. We knew everything would be different, but we just didn't know how different.
Well, we did predict that January... Well, I wouldn't say predict, but we discussed how January has been quite volatile for... Ever since Hakuho,
Stop coming to you.
Yeah, which unfortunately has been like 3 or 4 years.
It's been a legacy of January volatility. And we're gonna get into it. I got pages to talk.
I know, these are some thick notes this time around.
Well, there's something hit different this time around. It feels like there are some people that. Oh man, I can't wait to get into it. Got a lot to get into.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: how the tournament started felt like good old familiar. And the way it ended was not.
There something about the second half of this tournament for some people was so different.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to work this chat thing in here. It's probably the trickiest part.
You can see us, but you can't see the chat?
Well, what it is it won't let me... Oh, it's just...
It doesn't say there's anything in the chat here. So...
Alright, let's see if this now works. It was basically saying I had to be signed in order to see the chat. I don't know why.
Well,
so
gotta sign in.
I'm signed in.
Signed in.
All
so
right.
You can see the chat. Everything's...
Looks like I'm seeing the chat. Okay.
Well, let's give it a hack.
Let's do our usual thing.
Yeah. First and foremost, congratulations to, of all people, Mitakayumi? Question mark?
Now, in some ways, this is totally out in left field, but in other ways, it's not. If he had been performing to his capability, this would be like, yeah, of course.
Of course.
But because he had so many falls, I think there was many people, not just us, that were like, he's going to collapse again. But this time, he seized his opportunities.
So, well done, Mitaki. We'll do a deep dive on him in a bit. Let us still start at the top, as we always do.
Yes, lots to say.
Terunofuji, who the 11-4 looks decent. I think we finally are starting to see the cracks. And I feel like we got a little spoiled for a bit. That it was Terunofuji, the immortal, Terunofuji, the unstoppable, and he clearly had some sort of a knee issue after Meisei threw him out. And that was day 11, and he was on shaky legs ever since.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a literal statement right there, the shaky legs. We always knew it was possible that these knees weren't going to last forever. But I am shocked, like, out of nowhere, like, it's happening already. Like, we have to go forward wondering, is it already over, the dominance?
It's one of those things, I think it's more of a, he'll go back, he'll regroup, he'll rebuild, he'll heal up, and then he'll be back and he'll be as strong as ever. It's just the fragility is almost at complete odds with, and some of the reversals, some of the resistance he did was like it was as Herculean as ever. The day one Daisho almost gets him out. He's just like, no. Ura had him dead to rights. Mm-hmm. Dead to rights. And Terunofuji's just like, I no longer believe in physics. And just stands up and throws.
Which is what we're kind of been used to.
Yes.
Even if he was a little on the fence, he always figured a way out. But, what Meisei did to him...
Well, all props to Meisei.
Yeah, so he doesn't get his Kachikochi. We'll go into that.
A little bit.
But... he affects the entire tournament with that match.
He does. That was the crack in the armor. Now with Tamawashi drew first blood.
He started to show his age, though.
He started to show his age. There's some weird it was the thing about Tamawashi. I'm not going to say that Tamawashi got lucky, but more that Tamawashi sort of just had a brief advantage.
Yes.
And Terunofuji was not fast enough. And going into it, he looked a little rockier than normal. And so it's just Tamawashi was able to seize the opportunity. Meisei went in with a game plan. He's just like, I'm going to do this to this man, and I'm going to win.
Yeah, he's somebody that, well, we'll get to him, but that match meant everything. And from there on out, you knew Terunofuji was not at 100%. Definitely not to take anything away from Takayumi, but Terunofuji did not put in his strongest effort. My guess is he had no interest in fighting in a playoff. Because he has to think about his future.
Yeah. A 3-way playoff, no less. So
right.
Meaning that, under certain circumstances, he could fight 3, 4, 5 times even, depending on how the playoff goes. I honestly, I feel like it's just... he just ran out of it. And if he wasn't Yokozuna, he might have gone Kyujo. But it was now... he has the pride. He has the belt.
He's the only Yokozuna.
He's the only Yokozuna. He sort of has to die on the sword, and that was sort of Terunofuji at the end. It's sort of that weird, grim reminder that we are on these timers, and that as soon as the timers go out, he's done.
That's it. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how fit you are. Injuries change the dynamic of careers, of tournaments, everything. And we just happen to know that he's somebody who has the ticking
time bomb. But it's, well, if nothing else, both great to see the dominance still there, and worth noting that the majority of his fights were still just as one-sided as they always were.
Yeah, it was just at the end.
But at the end, it falls apart a bit. Well, be interesting to see how he comes back in March. Like we sort of, there's an expectation now. He comes back and it's just like nothing happened. I'm just gonna smash again.
Yeah, because you have to wonder two things: was he super hurt, or was he kind of hurt and cautious? If he's kind of hurt and cautious, we're good.
We're good.
If he was super hurt and his knees just don't recover, then that's a whole other thing we have to talk about.
Yeah. So that'll be... there's a lot of people that what they did here is going to dictate what happens to them in March. There's going to be a lot of momentum moving into spring, and Terunofuji is going to be the start of that momentum.
I will say that the sad thing is we didn't get to see that like almost 100-year record, or is over 100-year record, captured by Terunofuji. It would have been awesome to know that in our lifetime a Yokozuna did something that no Yokozuna had done since the 1920s. But alas, it hasn't been done for a reason.
It's as much luck as anything, it seems. But, well, Terunofuji, please take care of yourself. Hope your knees get better. And I feel really, really bad for when Okinomi has to fight him again.
Yeah. Well, because honestly, despite all of the good things we're going to talk about, no one's ready to be Yokozuna-less. We're not ready.
Nobody's ready.
Nobody's ready to become a Yokozuna. Side note. But connected to what we're going to talk about next.
Yes. So next up we had, unfortunately, speaking of injuries defining careers, Takakeisho, 1, 3, and 11. It's this weird thing that it was always he he needed the streak. He just give him like 3 or 4 good tournaments in a row, and then he'll finally make Yokozuna. But there was something about the time it happened now that felt sort of, there was a finality to it. There was a, oh no, I don't think this is a curse he can lift.
This might be his Mi Takayumi moment.
A bit.
The old Mi Takayumi moment. Where he's got all the tools to be better than he is, but it's just not working out. I mean, he's so injury prone. It'd be one thing if it was, I got a bad knee and I got to overcome the knee. It's a different injury every time. It means that basically he has to, either he has the worst luck in the world, which I don't actually think it's that, or his body is prone to injury with his style of sumo. You see it with the other pusher thrusters. You see it with Daisho. You see it with Chionokuni. It's not a style that's conducive to being at the top for very long. So it shows you that he's strong and he's tough, or else he wouldn't be where he is and he wouldn't be there as long as he's been. But this time did feel like, I don't think we're ever going to have a healthy Takakeisho.
We'll just get these spurts of Takakeisho. I will say that there is bad luck involved, though.
Of course.
Because he got Tori Naoshi into Ura. And
oh, yeah.
So, which is what caused the injury, is that he had a fairly prolonged fight with Ura that goes to the judges and they say redo. And I knew Takakeisho was in trouble watching that, because
of course.
He going to the starting line, he is heaving for breath. It's just like Takakeisho's not going to stop, but and then Ura just blasts him, and then in blasting him out, that's, I'm sure, how Takakeisho got injured.
Right, because he can't handle all that weight landing on. Yeah.
So,
ankle.
In a way, even if he had lost in the first, if they just gave it to Ura,
he would have been better off.
He would have been better off. He would have been rebounding. So that's where the luck comes in, and that's also where the body that's fragile also comes in. It's sort of just a rough. There's no. It's a deep hole with no light.
Pretty much
for January, and unfortunately, this now means that Takakeisho's Januaries are cursed. So
yes, it is now a trend. It's not just that was a one-off. No, It's. Remember what he said in his interview, though. Nothing good has happened to me since I became Ozeki. And that was when he got his first, title as an Ozeki. So that was supposed to be the end of it. But it seems like his bad luck and his woes are not over.
Not over.
And it's so sad because none of these guys are ready to be Yokozuna. None of them.
No.
And Takakeisho could be ready, but these injuries they're going to keep him out of it.
He would need a drastic transformation, and that's the kind of it's sort of like Kiseno Sato that when his injury hit, basically he would have had to transform how he fought overnight in order to keep the rank, and that was just wasn't in it for him. He's just that's too much. That may be the case here, but at the same time, even if we get Takakeisho 4 out of 6 bouts, that's still is that enough? Is that gonna?
I mean, it's definitely not gonna be enough to be Yokozuna, but it's enough to keep things interesting.
Yeah,
because I do think, and it's not my bias talking, I do think that Takakeisho is one of the best in the top division. It isn't just you got this Ozeki title. He's been the most consistent if you take the injuries out. Without injuries, he's a double-digit performer. Mm-hmm. He's in every Yusho race, and then his injuries come in and wreck the whole thing every single time. So, it's a shame. It really is. I hope that I'm wrong and he breaks the curse like we thought Mi Takayumi would never break the curse. But
there is. So Takakeisho is, he's not as young as he once was.
Exactly.
But there's still a few years left.
He's still young.
It's still young. So I think there's still enough time that we could get that something happening.
I don't think he's going to be someone who's fighting into his 30s, though.
No.
If he pulls something off, it'll be soon, and he's out by 32, 33.
Yeah, there's no Tamawashi blood in him.
No, there's not.
I can see him holding out, and it's also the way he fights. If he does if he does like a Tochinoshin style stagger dwindle, like a Takayasu, like he can go on for quite some time in the middle.
Yes.
So in that way, for him, will he hold on? You know, or will he do sort of the Goeido that once he loses the rank, he's done?
That's a very good question. Takakeisho's got this very prideful way about him, and
there's a few years. This is a very long projection, but I feel like I'm taking the long glance when I'm looking at Takakeisho.
And I could see it being a potential to go exactly that way. But one last thing I'll say is, oh, the irony that Ura is the one to injure Takakeisho.
Yup.
When Takakeisho, as a young man, was the one who knocked Ura out with that knee injury.
It's
come full circle.
There's a lot of full circle going on.
Yeah.
A bit weird.
Very strange.
But Takakeisho, we hope to see you in March. We hope to see you getting double digits without breaking a sweat, like we know you can.
If there's no injuries, we know he can do that. We know he's a good enough wrestler.
And you know that he's going to want to take a piece off of somebody who may also be Ozeki in March and put him in line.
Yeah, there's quite a rivalry there.
That is part of what is going to be interesting about what's going to be happening in March.
But, he was sitting at home like, man, why wasn't I in this tournament?
I could have put him in the stands.
Oh, if only. That would have been beautiful.
Would have been nice.
I can't mourn.
Next up, Shodai Ozeki won West 6-9 after what looked like a semblance of getting his act together. The sleepy, depressed, woe is me Shodai comes back with a vengeance. And it is a sad, sad sight. And so, like, we have, towards your point, none of the Ozeki have Yokozuna potential right now. Takakeisho just can't get two Yushos together.
Right.
He can get Yusho-like, but not simultaneously, not consecutively. Shodai, I don't even know if he's going to be Ozeki by the end of the year.
He certainly doesn't look like he belongs there.
So he'd always had like the weird like stand-up physics defying Tachiai, but it looked like this tournament that it was more just he just stood up and then people hit him and smacked him around. Like the force behind a lot of what he was doing seemed to be lacking.
Well, it's interesting because Murray Johnson actually said if you're depressed, it shows up in the ring. So there is something going on. For him to bring that up, he knows something.
Mm-hmm.
So this does seem like it's a mental problem with Shodai. But you can see it in every part of his body is just kind of slumped. And the energy seems to be coming... The lack of energy seems to be coming from somewhere other than like a physical thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, heaven forbid something bad is going on.
Yes, hopefully not.
Like, if this is just like buckling under pressure of expectation, I mean, that's one thing. I hope that is, I hope that, there's no weird like Liam Neeson Taken issue going on or something. Like we hear about it, it's like, oh yeah, Shodai's high school girlfriend has been killed. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that.
No, please. I hope you and yours are healthy and happy, and that you're just being Eeyore right now.
Exactly.
That's my hope.
Maybe he's been spending time with Ichinojo or something.
A little bit.
I don't know. He's unfortunately going to have to be the guy that we really give a hard time to now that Mitake Yumi's
yeah, I mean, it's sort of
ascended.
Going along. Shodai now Kadoban has to get his act together or he's going to be bound in Sekiwaki. Conversely, Mitake Yumi Sekiwaki 1 East 13-2 does mathematically give him 33 wins and the Yusho and beating the Yokozuna on the last day for the cup. We haven't made him Ozeki yet, but it's pretty hard to argue with this, particularly with 2 Kadoban Ozeki going into March.
Well, it's funny because they had told him before the tournament, you need 15 wins, and I think they were kind of like, you're never going to do it. And then he doesn't get 15 wins, but he gets the Yusho and beats Terunofuji, and it's like... He's done what he's got to do. And he's won a lot of prizes. Like, if you look at him on paper, he's won a lot of special prizes. He got
the technique prize.
The technique prize.
This tournament. He's
done a lot of things to position himself, and on paper, he looks better than almost everybody else. It's just, he doesn't have the consistency.
Yeah.
So he took advantage this time of a lot of things that went on. And that's not to take away from what he's done. But it's really to say he took advantage of the multiple injuries.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of guys that got injured.
A lot of injuries.
If Takayasu's not there, how does that happen? If Takakeisho's there, how does that affect Mitakayumi? Terunofuji not being 100%. Once again, not to take away from Mitakayumi, but there's other guys that would have that golden opportunity and completely blow it.
They would blow.
Takayasu, for instance, not to diss him, but Takayasu's been in positions where he could have won and just collapsed.
The mental block was not there for Mitakayumi. It is such a weird thing with him because it's not like anything he did is surprising in a way.
He does what he's supposed to do.
He fought the way he always does, and all of his style, his technique, his dominance. You look at him just like, yeah, that's Mitakayumi on a good day. He just had 15 good days or 13 good days, depending how you want to look at it.
Yeah, his one loss. Who was it that he lost to?
It was, interestingly enough,
the Hokuto Fuji loss was like, or was it the Onosho loss? That was just like it was the Onosho loss. He looked terrible in that loss. It was like he just pushed you and then pulled you down.
Uh-huh.
That's not Ozeki caliber. But you can let that slide if all the other days are fine. Mitakayumi had so many Onosho losses in previous tournaments that's why people just like shrug their shoulders and say this guy isn't the right guy.
Yeah. I think he was. What was he? Was he 9-0? Yeah, 9-0. We were talking on the side. Definitely, we were talking at 8-0 when he got his 8-0 Kachikoshi. You're just like, I wonder if this is the time. I'm just like, it's not day 15 yet. It's not. Time.
You were not ready to accept it.
I was not ready for this, so I will eat my foot on that. But yeah, wow. So there's a good chance he's Ozeki. I could see them not, but at this point, like, how are you not going to?
Well, they already talked about getting a meeting together. So they're going to do that meeting no matter what to discuss whether he should. Now, I've never heard the situation where they discussed if somebody should and didn't give it to him. If they did that to him, that would be unimaginably cruel.
That would be rough.
But, so I'm going to say the precedence is on the side of he's going to be Ozeki. Mm-hmm. The fact that they're meeting at all. If they just decline to meet, that would be like, sorry, you're out of luck.
That's a good point, actually. That if they were going to tell him double-digit wins in March and you get it, that would be they don't even need to meet for it, but the fact that they're having a special meeting probably means he's got it.
I see Leo in here. We're definitely not saying that Mitakayumi got this by luck. We were more or less making the comment that he took advantage of every opportunity.
Yeah, this is something that Mitakayumi has done in the past, because this is his third Yusho, and both of his prior Yushos were him capitalizing on a chaos event going on. I think there was one, it was a summer event, like everybody was injured, nobody was doing well, and Mitakayumi is just like, I'm going to take it. And he was like 11-4, 12-3, and he just ran away with it.
Right, and he's beaten Takakeisho multiple times. It's really more of a question of what would cause the lack of consistency. And that's all Mitakayumi either winning by Mitakayumi's strengths or Mitakayumi losing because of Mitakayumi's weaknesses.
Yeah.
He's in control of his own fate, unlike a lot of guys on this list.
There's some stuff that's up to chance. There was something in the aura of Mitakayumi that was a little different this time around.
It was a confidence of, I'm gonna get it this time.
Yeah, there was this like, this bit of like believing in the self that was part of the missing pieces from Takayumi. Now, what will become the question is this sort of like, 9 planets align on this date and then they will never align again, or was this him saying like, new year, new you, drawing the line in the sand, I am sick of this nonsense, and just pushing it?
Well, to that note, Takayumi, however he does his thing. First of all, I'll say one thing he has on his side is he's not injury prone.
Yeah.
And that's super, super important. But there seems to be a curse of the Ozeki period going all the way back to Takeyasu Goeido. Goeido did not win any titles once he became Ozeki. Takeyasu didn't even win a Yusho in order to become Ozeki. And then you get Tochinoshin come in, and he wins a tournament before but never wins one as an Ozeki. And you have had this roller coaster Kadoban safe for years now. Will Takayumi be the guy to break the curse?
That's an interesting question.
And it does require a new level. And even though he can beat every single guy on the list, being Ozeki means something very different. So he's going to have to take what he's gotten right now and become an even better fighter than he's been all this time. He can't rest on his laurels. It hasn't worked for anybody so far. Except for Terunofuji, but he just sped through and it didn't matter. What did he spend, like 5 minutes as Ozeki?
Ozeki was an afterthought for Terunofuji.
It was like, I have to kind of take a seat on the Ozeki bench until the bus comes to bring me to Yokozuna. So anyway, and the other factor of Takayumi is... I actually forgot my point about that.
If he held it together for 15 days, he's living up to his potential. And it did feel like this was something like we knew he can do it, but he just never did it. And then we just got tired of waiting for him to do it.
Well, one thing is, now that we're in this new year, he can forget all of it. Yeah. Just like Terunofuji.
There's a couple people I feel turn that corner.
Right. It's like, forget everything that happened in years past. This is the new you. Go forward. No one will remember any of that. Oh, this was my point. We finally have a Sekiwake spot open.
Yes! We'll talk about that when we're done with Sanyaku, but that is going to be very interesting. I think there's going to be a couple of people who are going to love to have in there.
All right, so let's move on to our next person.
Next one. So, talking about Sekiwake, Takanosho 7 and 8 at Sekiwake 1 West. And he looked fine. The first half. Now he was 6 and 4, so not awesome. Well, 6 and 4 is good at Sekiwake 1 West. I'll take that back. 6 and 4 is good. Then he loses 4 in a row, and it felt like something fell apart for him. And I'm wondering if it was just the fact that he was fighting Kotonowaka, Terunofuji, Abi, and Hoshoryu, 4 people who are really hungry and have something to prove, and just Takanosho didn't have that little extra in the tank. Also, and we have noticed this in the past, that Takanosho is dependent on Takakeisho for that little extra edge.
Yes. It's a benefit that he has that not everybody, you have different people like Takarafuji has Terunofuji.
Yes.
Not everybody is in a stable where you have like real tough, hard competition, especially at the Ozeki or higher level. There's only Shodai, Takakeisho, and Terunofuji at this point. Way back in the day, actually Haramofuji was in Terunofuji's stable, so he got to get a little bit of that before, everything fell apart. But yeah, Takanosho, I'd actually say this is pretty consistent for him, and I don't know if it is directly linked to once Takakeisho's out, the training goes down or something else. He seemed like his power was cut in half.
It was cut, and again, like, he beats Daisho in the head-to-head. He beats Onosho in the head-to-head. And by the way, Onosho...
These are the same style guys.
I call it the pecking order. Yes. Whenever 2 pusher thrusters go up against each other, because it is... When they butt heads, like they're 2 linebackers, it is just who's stronger, who has the better focus, who has the better timing, and like there is like the belt chess match, which is fascinating and interesting. And it is a lot less subtle when it comes to the pusher thrusters. Not to say it's less interesting, because you have two people hitting each other it's a car crash.
Yeah,
it's battle. And so to see Takanosho beat the other pusher thrusters, well, minus Abi, but Abi's also has his eyes set higher, but then still loses it against things that maybe he couldn't have lost it to before. I don't know. I don't really have a solid read on it, but the 7-8 does mean that he'll stay in Sanyaku.
Exactly. And we have another comment from Leo. Takanosho is proving to be a Sanyaku regular, despite his losing record. Right now, the most deserving of a Sekiwaki post, in my opinion. Takanosho has a lot of similar attributes to Mitakeumi, actually. He has a consistency to his sumo where he can get into Sanyaku and kind of stay there. Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised in March if he has an 8-7 and he doesn't have to give up, the position. But there is something... If we're comparing Takanosho to everybody in the list, he might be one of the best guys in the list. But to be the best, Takanosho needs something else.
He does. This is the big difference between Takanosho and Mitakeumi. Because Mitakeumi had the potential to aim higher.
Always had everything he needed.
The whole toolkit was there. It was just, there was a mental block, there was a motivation block, there was something that...
Training issue.
Who knows? And for Takanosho, it did feel like Sekiwaki was his ceiling, and he would need an extra gear to get higher. And what that extra gear was, we weren't sure.
And we're still not sure.
I mean, it could be... It's also one of those things that you blink, and all of a sudden he's 11-4.
Well, even in this tournament in general, we can say that about a lot of guys. There are some guys we had said, I don't know. It's been like 7 tournaments of this. And when we get to them, it's like, whoa. 11-4?
Whoa.
Okay, there was a shift, and we hope it's a continual shift and not just I'm really excited because it's the new year and this is the new me. Like a New Year's resolution sumo. I hope we're not dealing with New Year's resolution sumo.
I am afraid of that to an extent for at least a couple people.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is a lot of momentum in the sport that I'm hoping comes into play. But for Takanosho, I guess good news, still in Sanyaku. Also good news, he did well enough that I'm not worried about a tumble.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like tumble-worthy. It just seemed like something at the end.
Something at the end fell apart. It was very crucial. Like, a win against any one of those. Like, if he got it against Hoshoryu... By the way, Hoshoryu kind of did a henka, but that's...
Well, you know how I feel about that. But...
It was the bump henka. It was I did the tachi-ai, but, like... Anyway, we'll get into that.
Well, if you look at some of the losses at the end, too, we had Abi, Terunofuji, and Kota Nawaka, the guys who had the best tournaments.
The Yusho contenders. So,
but that does tell you, if he doesn't beat one of them, he's not at their level.
That's the problem.
And you have to be at their level if you want to get to their level.
That's the ceiling Takanosho needs to break through.
Exactly.
So, speaking of breaking through things...
What a tricky guy this guy is.
So, Meisei... I'm calling him the God Killer because he cleans out the Ozeki and the Yokozuna for 3 of his 5 wins.
I know, it doesn't make sense.
And so it's this weird thing that he needs to brush up on how to fight his fellow mortals. Kirabayama had a little bit of this before Kirabayama had more of his own problems.
Yeah.
And that they're so focused on the top most that they were able to get those crucial big wins. And again, Meisei, in his own way, decided the fate of the tournament all by himself. This was not like a mono-e upset. This was I'm throwing this boy out and no one's gonna stop me.
It seemed very deliberate. There was no luck in it. You look at that match and you just see a man who's like, I'm gonna win today.
Yeah.
And he executed his plan and he won, and it was shocking.
And there was that level of focus, that sort of that laser beam. He needs to maintain it. And it's also like, it's always fun watching Meisei. It's always a lively bout. He's always giving it his all. It's just he spins out. That the laser focus doesn't stay long enough to get more than a few wins, and it's frustrating is the wrong word, because there's the spark but not the fire.
It could be his size. I mean,
maybe
he's a smaller guy, so you could have all these plans in your head of what you're going to do, but if a guy just, first of all, it's the jump on the tachi. Whoever gets the jump on the tachi is already in control. So for Meisei, he's got to win it there every single time in order to ensure that he can play his tricks. If he loses on the tachi, he's already at a disadvantage because he's a smaller guy. Now, he can pull it off. He can do crazy things. But that's got to take a toll after a while. Like, that's the tough thing about small man sumo. And he's not small. But he's like middle of the range. The tough thing about the smaller guys is they have to be more perfect. They have to work harder. They can't make as many mistakes. Terunofuji can make all the mistakes he wants, and he could still win the match. That's not Meisei.
Yeah, to be fair, Meisei makes a lot of his own mistakes.
He does.
So there is, I'll say the optimist in me looks at Meisei and says there's potential for refinement that will keep him moving forward and upward. And these flashes of brilliance, I would say, will soon become the norm rather than the exception, at least in terms of wins and losses. So the hope is this is just him figuring it out, that he's going to be dipping in and out of Sanyaku until the point that it just sticks.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to expect that taking a win off of Terunofuji the way he did, he learned something.
Mm-hmm.
Each time he gets one of these big wins, he learns something about the bigger opponents. I mean, Terunofuji is way bigger than him.
Yeah, he is.
So all this accumulated knowledge, all of this battle strategy in the ring can only make him a better fighter. Another thing he's got going, and I always have to knock on wood, okay? He's not super injury prone either. It's not that he hasn't been injured. But some of these guys, they're injured all the time either because their style is really rough or their form isn't great. So when they make a mistake, something's going to snap.
It's costly.
So I still want to stay optimistic about Meisei too. I think something could happen. And a quick note that Leo says he sees Goeido in him. What are your thoughts on that?
A hungry, aggressive Goeido.
Yes.
Has that. There's a snap to Meisei's technique, and this is particularly in the way that when you watch the slow-mo on Terunofuji, like it was like a 5-step technique. Like it was the tachi, it was a shift, it was a pull, it was a grabbing of the belt, and it was like a powerful chuck, and it was this one. It looked like one fluid motion, and then in the replay, you're just like, he had to have drilled that.
Exactly, he had to have practiced that.
Practiced it. That's the focus. And Goeido also had the ability to do very complicated machines or complicated techniques.
Because Goeido was the king of training. He absolutely ruled all of the practice sessions because he practiced and practiced and practiced. I could definitely see Meisei being the same type of fighter.
It's a good point. Something to keep an eye on going forward.
Well, when they start doing the inner stable again, and you can see them on YouTube, we'll have to keep a specific look at Meisei.
How his dominance is in the training ring.
Exactly, because he's sort of with coronavirus. Not everybody was going, and then it was hard to see everybody. So I think as things go a little bit more normal, and when they go on the tour again, the tour might make a difference for someone like Meisei.
We'll see.
Just a little bit more.
Go with that, more exposure. So next up, Kamasubi. Daisho, 1 West, 7 and 8. So sort of as expected, Makakoshi. He fought only as good as he allowed. Surprising me, like I was putting the notes together, he was 3 and 8, and then gets 4 wins in a row. That warmed my heart as a Daisho fan because that means that there is no quitting the boy. There is nothing stopping him except the limits of his own body. And what sort of scared me a little bit as a Daisho fan is that he was getting. It seemed like there were some matches that he had full output, but he still couldn't win. Mitakeumi and Ichinojo specifically, like he gave it there was the Yusho Daisho Tachiai just crashes into him, and both of them were able to weather the storm. And that scares me because now I'm like, okay, if he did everything right and now he's still losing, then that's not the injury, that's not the timing off, that's we're losing power. The time is starting to run against us.
Yeah, he definitely had a massive decrease in power from what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Now, it could be the injury, but with Daisho, it really feels like it's a heart matter. Like, maybe he wasn't, for whatever reason, if all things weren't going together, he wasn't in it like he usually is.
Yeah, there were a couple of matches that were pretty one-sided that he just showed up. But it's like, you know that Daisho isn't a show-up kind of a guy.
Right.
That he's trying his best out there, and so it's just, there's this misalignment of stuff.
Yeah, and he's got a real rough style, and I don't imagine he's ever going to fight not hurt.
Mm-mm.
So it's just a matter of, there's a certain mental component to fighting hurt, right? If you're always hurt, but you find a way, Tochinoshin excels at this, by the way. Some tournaments, maybe you just don't have it in you. Like, you just don't have the fight because it just, for whatever reason, hurts more this month.
It's possible, and it is just, it's an unfortunate thing. One, that Daisho, maybe he can't align all the pieces together again, and two, it feels even worse that there are some times that it looks like everything's all lined up, but it still isn't enough.
Right, and that is the sad thing, when everything looks good and it's not enough, because you can't do anything about that.
Like Daisho, there's no building. It feels like, there could be some refinement, maybe a little more power, maybe he's has less injuries one tournament, but we're not in an upward trajectory. We're not like some of them young hotshots.
Right. This
anymore.
is a guy who's headed towards the mature stage of his career.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be seeing this at this point. Like, if he was in his 30s, you just say, oh, well, he's still fighting in his 30s, he looks good. When he's doing this at the tail end of his 20s, this is not a good sign. But, the optimistic side of us could think he needs a little rest, and he'll come back and he'll be fine.
Still a 7-8 in Kamasubi, which
he grinded it out.
He grinded it out. It was, again, that was a 3-8. And there was a lot of people on this list. I can't help but feel if they were sitting on a 3-8, that would have been double-digit losses without blinking an eye.
Absolutely.
So that's the never say die, at least, is there. And I feel like if that remains intact, come what may the rank, Daisho's still here to play.
And that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, if you've given it everything you have, then you've given it everything you have.
Yeah. If you leave it all out in the ring, then there's no regrets. There's nothing held back. So you go into March, clean mind, body, and soul.
Exactly.
And hopefully some more tape for your fingers.
Yeah, if he has any fingers that aren't broken.
Yeah. So that is Kamasubi. So I'm going to do a little talk about Kamasubi that we referenced before. I'll scroll back up. And that, assuming Mitakeumi gets the Ozeki promotion, which at this point, as we mentioned, how would he not? We're going to have an almost complete dump of the Sanyaku. If Takanosha lost on the last day, if that was a 6-9, I see it. I was just like, I could see them just flushing the toilet.
Starting
on
all
the entire
over again.
Sanyaku. We're like, we need 4 new people. But we have 3 right now. So as we go down the list of Megashira, we're going to be looking at this top chunk, who's going to fill the void. And good news for Waka Takakage, being at Megashira 1 East, an 8-7, and he's in Sanyaku so long as there's a free slot. Now, he did give it the 9-6 just for the extra little oomph. And not only a 9-6, but a 9-6 against Onosho, which I feel is a bit of an exclamation point on this. And for Waka Takakage, and we had mentioned this, that like the first half and the second half of this tournament were completely different. He was 0-4, which was 3-6, 4-6.
Yeah, I had written him off.
I was well, particularly the first week he was getting thrashed, and I'm like, well, he's still struggling with it. He's still fighting through it. I was just like,
he's not ready yet.
Not ready yet. And then you turn around, And, all of a sudden he's 6-6, he's 7-6, he's 8-6. She's like, what? So here's another guy who's never say die. And that was always been something that was in Wakataka Kage's corner. And this is also a guy who's really, really good at finding ways to execute on his, as they say, on his brand of sumo.
Right, exactly. Well, we talk about this all the time. You can have all these techniques and you can be physically stronger, but if you don't have that hunger, I'm going to get it, you're not going to make it. So just having the ability to bounce back the way Wakataka Kage did is enough to show that he really is the hope for the future. He's not refined enough yet, but he's got what you need.
Yeah. And so, not only is he going to be up there, I see him, because there's going to be the 2 Sekiwake slots, and I have a sneaking suspicion of who one of them's going to be, but he's definitely going to be the other one.
Well, you know that I very grandiosely call Wakataka Kage the only potential next Hakuho. That might be a bit outrageous, but when I look at him, in all the people that we have, there could be someone down in the 3rd division that's going to come and clean it all out. He's the only one for me that has everything.
Performances like this shows that you can't keep him down forever. That's the feeling I get. And now, this is somebody that is definitely in March, is he going to tread water, or is he going to start an Ozeki run? And that is where the story of Wakataka Kage is going to start to evolve. Because it feels, sitting here right now in the middle of January in the frigid cold, it's like it is equally as likely that he does a 6-9, and sort of back to where he was, that he does an 8-7, maybe another 9-6 and treads the water, or that he just has a breakout, does 11-4, makes a run at the cup, and then sort of just hits the speed. I feel like the 11-4 is much less likely, but at the same time, the fact that he was able to pull it together at the end, maybe he'll get some spin on the ball.
Well, what's always tough about doing these recaps of a tournament is that one tournament never fully tells the story. So, we can guess and hope and everything, and then March could be completely different. But let's just go forward optimistically, as we always do, and say that these things are going to happen,
These things are going to happen. This is the beginning, and this goes into what we were mentioning before, new year, new Basho, new you. Is this going to be the new story? And
so we got a couple of comments here to address. One is Tom D said, I would love Ura to grab Komusubi sometime this year. Is he possibly in the running for that?
There is a good... We'll talk about this.
Yeah, when we get to Ura, maybe.
Well, mathematically, Ura is the highest ranked Megashira with a winning record, which could put him at Komusubi 1 West. Here's the competition. First off, he has Onosho. Now, I think the 10-5 means not really a big deal. Abi's getting Sekiwake 1 East, by the way. No discussion.
I would think so.
So, if I had to guess right here, right now, it would be Abi and Sekiwake 1 East. It would be Wakataka Kage in 1 West. It would be Takanosho in Komusubi 1 East. And it would be Ura in 1 West. That would be my money.
That would be sweet.
Well earned.
Yes.
I would say. Here's the 2 wrinkles in the... Oh, that looks bad. Here are the 2 wrinkles in the plan. You have an 11-4 Hoshoryu who's on a tear, who is just... We'll get to him. Amazing. Also, we have Onosho at 10-5. Now, these are some decisive wins. So one of these 2 people could make a bid for it. But everybody else here, 8-7. Which means that, because these 3 guys are 8-7, Ura has the highest rank, which means he gets the nod for Komusubi.
Right, that would be the tiebreaker.
So, it becomes, once the Banzuke people get together, it really becomes a question of, is it going to be Ura or is it going to be Hoshoryu? And, again, my money's on Ura, and that they give Hoshoryu 1 East.
I can see that.
And then they go to Hoshoryu and they say, go.
Right, you got to fight harder. They love to motivate these young guys, or all of them, not just the young guys. I mean, they told me, Takayumi, get 15 wins if you want Ozeki. I mean, there's a motivator right there. But I think they were going to want to really push Hoshoryu, like really push him to the edge. So they're going to let him get close enough to taste it and then say, what do you got now?
What do you got now? Well, that's sort of my takeaway for Hoshoryu, just jumping around a little bit, is like March is going to be show me what you got for him. And I feel like he's the kind of guy who just eats up the come on and prove it.
Oh, yeah.
So
he wants it.
He wants it. So that's going to be what's going on for him. And so for Waka Takakage, he'll be Sekiwaki 1 West. That's a very clean. Abi will be 1 East. Or maybe Waka will be East and Abi will be West. We'll figure that out as we go. Somebody who's not going to be in the contention is going to be Kirabayama, who's 6 and 9. Trying to move things along a little bit more quickly, just for interest of time. But Kirabayama's, I think his issue is just power at this point. Because he has the technique, he has the timing, but he's still, there's still a struggle for him. He's still stuck in this meat grinder. And like he's touched Sanyaku. Like he had the touch, and he's been in this space before for long enough that he's started getting familiar. But I think it now there's a couple of exceptions. Some people outworked him, beat him on Tachiai. But Kirabayama, I think he just needs to be in the gym. Like, it feels that way. That he changes nothing, but then just spends an afternoon doing curls or something.
I agree with you. I 100% thought the whole time he needs to bulk up.
He needs to bulk up. And not crazy.
No, because it'll change everything.
Yeah, just like, I would like...
Like a Kakadu. Like, I see Kakadu in Kirabayama. He could be his son. As far as his style is so similar. You can tell. Like, you'd be shocked if he wasn't involved with Kakadu.
It's a very much a protege kind of a feel.
So I think that if he got bulkier, he's got a lot of technique. He gets pushed around too much.
A little bit. And there are a couple of times that like he has the grip, but then he just can't connect, and it's just because the guy's resisting too much. Now, they're usually pretty generous with people who have spirited fights but then lose. So I see him staying in the top 5, which means he's still going to be in the conversation come March. But Kirabayama just bench press. Just get in there, pump some iron. That's all I can say. And then everything else will work out.
I think so too.
All right. So, talk about Ura. We did talk about it a little bit. So, conversely, we have Kirabayama stuck in the meat grinder. Ura is just like, what's a meat grinder? I'm just going to fight. And that is the closest I've seen Terunofuji to losing, and he pulls it out. And like during the match with Ura, like he had him all the way out, and Ura just puts his heart and soul and body into trying to push him out. Terunofuji survives it. I will always remember the look on Ura's face, because he was completely spent. Like Terunofuji like pushes him over, and it's a couple of 2 second graders fighting. Like the fight just involves one of them getting pushed over. And Ura, like, looks up at Terunofuji just like, what the F? Like, doesn't say that, obviously, but, like, the look on his face is like, come on, how did that not work?
How am I ever going to get this guy?
What is this guy's problem?
Now, isn't that the same match where he goes to look at the replay and Hakuho is standing next to him?
Yeah, was that?
That was a super cool moment.
That was a fun moment, yeah. But Ura, so, scary but also not scary. Day 2, he takes a tumble, hits the back of his head.
And was
visibly concussed. That scared me. But then keeps going like nothing happened. Which is nice for the durability, but also sort of a...
Will you just relax?
But this is... We've talked about this before. You in particular noticed it when he had his resurgence, that there's a little bit of a recklessness to him. And and that sort of getting thrashed around like a crash test dummy may have its issues. Again, I have money on him being Kamasubi 1 West. I can see them giving it to Hoshoryu. But the thing is, like, either Ura or Hoshoryu are going to be right there on the edge. And it's really just a matter of who they think will be hungrier, who they think earned it more.
And who's going to be more entertaining.
Who's going to be more entertaining.
They're both entertaining, but I will say this. Ura probably also has the ticking time.
He does, yeah. Ura...
Those knees, his style is so rough. I'm going to start calling him Gumby. Because his limbs have been bent in all these directions, and you know that he already has knee trouble, and he keeps getting up. He doesn't even limp.
Nice.
It defies... My brain starts to short circuit when I watch Ura fight. And I have to, like, take a lap. I have to pause it and take a lap. So, and he's very entertaining, and I think he's probably a well-liked guy.
Oh, God, how can you not like Ura?
Like, the fact that Hako is, like, watching him in the monitor, I just feel like that's, like, a little endorsement there.
A little bit. But Ura survived, again, highest rank in his career, gets an 8 and 7. So that means he's still going higher. How much higher and for how long, as you'd mentioned, that is what we will find out. So... Ichinojo also an 8 and 7, a very dramatic 8 and 7 for Ichinojo. And in the past, we've had using the Pokemon reference of Snorlax and Hariyama, and that like sort of the Ichinojo of old, the one that we were familiar with, was the try to win really quick and then just sort of lean on people, give up, sleep through it. And then there's this new spirited Ichinojo who's hungry and aggressive and doesn't quit. And we had a bit of both.
Yeah, it's almost like Snorlax broke through the cave and was like, wait, I want to come back.
I want to come back.
And Hariyama's like, no, don't put me back in the bottle. No. And so we're losing the Ichinojo we had the 2 or 3 tournaments prior. His natural instinct to hibernate has returned.
It's coming back, and it's like, is it pressure? And part of the thing is that there's no read on him. So, is this pressure? Is this just some days he doesn't have it and other days he does? Hard to say. There's still an enigma in the Ichinojo, at least as far as I know. But still 8 and 7 means that he, alongside with Hoshoryu and Onosho, are going to be threatening for that Sanyaku again, just the same. Which is good news. Good news. And I would say even a 7 and 8. So if he had lost the last match against Tochinoshin, and that was a fun match, by the way.
That's one of my favorite matches. Like, that's a classic match. Yeah.
So, and also to his credit, that was a match that he had to fight.
Right. He needed to keep his...
If it was full Snorlax, full old Ichinojo, he would have just leaned on Tochinoshin and hope Tochinoshin's knees give out. But Ichinojo stuck with him. Long fight, belt battle, both of the guys grunting in that strongman sumo way. So that is the Hariyama. That is the Ichinojo we like. So he's still there.
Right. It's just a matter of who's going to take over.
Who's going to take over. And that is the question that will be solved. And with an 8 and 7, there's no answer yet. So we'll talk about Tamawashi next. So you look at the 8 and 7 and you're like, I guess he's doing well. But
that doesn't tell the story.
It tells nothing. Here's a guy who puts dirt on Terunofuji who looked nigh unstoppable. He was 5 and 1, and then even when he was 6 and 2, we're like, oh, he's in the Yusho race. And around right here, when we beat Hokutofuji, which sucked for me, but okay. This is 7 and 3. So I didn't think he was gonna get the Yusho with 3 losses, but I'm looking at him being at Megashare 3 at 7 and 3. I'm like, oh god, he's in Sanyaku. He just fooled all of us.
Right. I was ready to throw a party with cookies and everything if he made it to the end. Even if he was like runner up, I would have thrown a party.
It was looking like it up until the last 5 days, where he definitely lost a bit of steam.
He started to look mortal. He started to look like the oldest guy in sumo.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that actually as an insult, because he wasn't fighting like Shohozan, oldest guy in sumo.
Yeah.
But I think he got tired. And these young guys, these young hungry guys like Hoshoryu, Kotonowaka, and even Kiribayama, they're not going to be stopped easily. They've got a plan. They're going places. I think they took advantage, and they really took advantage of somebody who was getting tired out, and now it was time to like show some flashy techniques on the poor guy.
Yeah, but hey, 8 and 7 at Megashare 3 for this guy. I think we were angling for him to take a tumble, but he's still going. So bless your heart, Tamawashi, your immortal heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing well.
I hope to be just like you, for my whole life, where I never look my age.
Beat Shota, by the way. So he did beat an Ozeki, for what it's worth.
He beat an Ozeki. In quotes.
You see, Mitakeumi is now off the
We're going to
bully
let
table.
you go, Mitakeumi. We won't rag on you anymore, but now we got to rag on Shodai.
We got to rag on someone.
Unless we find out there's a taken situation.
Yes, in which case then we're terribly sorry.
We'll take it back.
All taken back, just ready to go. So, Endo, 7 and 8, another roller coaster of a record. And that you look at 7 and 8, you're just like, Endo being Endo, because this is not Endo being Endo. This is Endo who looked like he's going to have a complete disaster.
And then pulled it off. Now, it did help him a lot to get that free win with Shima no Umi.
Yes.
Because that builds a little bit of momentum. Like, you win, then you get a freebie, get a rest. Exactly. So he did have a little bit of assistance, but he did not collapse like it looked like he was going to collapse.
Yeah, and he did. The rollover Endo does seem to be gone, which is good news because a spirited Endo is going to give you a good fight every day you watch him. But it's like, well, now you're getting beat on timing and power and technique, and
like the things you don't get beat on. The
things you don't get beat on. And so, like, Endo and Daisho for me are both in this very awkward.
What's wrong with you?
I don't like what I'm seeing. Are you getting old? I don't like this feeling. that I'm like,
I know. One day we're going to turn around and be like, oh no, like Endo is Okinomi or Endo is Shohozan.
He's 32 right now.
Yeah.
I was looking it up because I remember I was wrong. I was wrong on podcasts about Daisho's age. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to check it before I call anyone out. And Endo's 32. I'm just like, no.
I don't want to know this.
I didn't want to know that. Can I get a neuralizer real quick? Just flash me. I don't want to get to know it. But still a 7. Again, when you're in the first 5 of Megashira, like, 7, I consider 7, 8, like, that's a sort of a Kachikoshi in its own way. Particularly because...
He's probably only going to drop to Megashira 4.
Yeah, he'll still be there. And also, 4 of his wins, well, technically 5, but the Fusen show. But 4 of those wins were in the last week. So everyone's tired. And, you know...
And he pulled it off.
He's just like, I'm not done yet.
He's always somebody you got to watch out for, regardless of what the record is. Endo is always a threat.
Always a threat. And the way he's fighting now, like, he's going to be a threat to his dying breath.
I will always appreciate Endo Sumo regardless. Because they're so deep. He's got a deep bag of tricks.
Yeah. So, unfortunately for Okinomi, not to say dying breath and an Okinomi in this...
Wow!
Ignore that part of it. I just didn't have a good transition. Okinomi injured knee was the entire story of Okinomi, which is very sad because I could see the Okinomi with a proper knee causing the kind of a mess that Meisei did to the Yusho race. Mm-hmm. Like, a good Okinomi will beat Mitakeumi, will beat Abi. But we didn't get that this time around.
It was sad. It was really a sad thing to see him hurting so bad.
Yeah. He was able to fight, unlike Myogiryu, who came back and could not fight and should have just stayed in bed.
Yeah.
But also Okinomi spirited to the end. So, fighting for every inch... even against impossible odds, which, again, that, like with Daisho, when you see that spirit is still ignited,
that means something.
It means you're going to stick around. And so the 4 and 11 will dump him down a little bit, but I think, like, Megashira 6, 7, 8 with a healthy Okinomi knee, he's fine. He's fine. I'm not worried.
Well, I'll tell you, though, it was only a couple of shows ago where we were talking about Okinomi and Myogiryu not showing their age, and now all of a sudden, those injuries are... They're building up.
They're hitting them hard. That is the side effect of the injury, is that you can walk some of those off when you're a springy youth.
Yeah, but once you get to that age, it takes longer to heal. It's more complicated, and then thoughts get in your head like, how long do I want to do this?
How long do I want to do this? But I'm not worried for Okinomi. He's not on any list of mine except the list of people to watch when I want to see some good sumo.
Exactly.
No worries. So, next, Hokuto Fuji.
Are you ready to cry yet?
So, there was a familiarity with this in a very morbid way that I'm like, oh, look, Hokuto Fuji's struggling to get that final little inch to start the way back up at the Sanyaku. And in a way it sucks because this is like the story of Hokutofuji. But on the other hand, it means that we're back to normal.
Right, I mean...
So, there was the injury, there was the knee, it threw him down. This is him coming back up, and now I'm seeing like Megashira 4, Hokutofuji 6 to 9. I'm just like, okay, there's some comfort in the fact that we're still back, and if he's still dealing with the injury, maybe there's a little bit more improvement to be had. He did have his own...
Well, he beat me Takayumi, which...
Yeah, so he made his presence felt. He didn't beat Abi like he did last tournament, but he did have a win on the Yusho race that affected it. So
it would have been interesting if his defeat of Takayumi actually influenced the whole thing.
Yeah, it
was close.
It was close, but not his Yusho, not his tournament, not his anything in January. So
Leo said maybe he just didn't stomp the dohyo hard enough. It's very possible.
Hokutofuji, come on.
Psyduck,
let's go.
Maybe his headache wasn't strong enough for his psychic
strong
powers.
Enough. You need to slap yourself silly stronger in March. I want to hear echoes throughout the tournament.
Well, we haven't watched the NHK Live yet. Maybe we'll be able to analyze his warm-up and see if he was beating himself up enough.
He needs to beat himself up more. Hokutofuji will work on it. We'll be back to that. But we'll gonna try not to be too upset about this.
No, we'll see March.
Yeah, we'll see March. So, Ono Show, Megashira 5 East, 10-5. We took our eyes off him for 5 seconds.
That happens a lot.
And already he's got double-digit wins. Like Ono Show and Kirabayama sort of put in the same boat. That they're people that were like, how long did it take you to get it together? And normally he has this issue with like the focus, and he spins out of control, sort of like Meisei.
And the feet are flying up in the air.
Flying at the he beat Abi, he beat Meisei, he beat Takayumi, he beat Shodai.
Yeah, he had some big wins.
This is not doing well against people underneath. This is trashing people that shouldn't be being trashed by him.
Right, I mean, one of his losses was to Terunofuji before he was hurt, Yeah,
if he does a performance like this, beating these people. Here's the thing: when he goes up to Megashira 1 or 2, all these people he beat are the people he needs to beat to go higher. So that's the trick. Is that losing to Takarafuji, losing to Chiyoshima. You do need to work on that, but he may not be facing them next tournament.
Right, and the reality of Onosho is he really just needs a consistency.
He does.
He is the pusher thruster, so he's got that working against him in that you have to be perfect if you've got no other tricks in your book. But if he stays consistent at this level, there's a lot of inconsistent wrestlers in this field. You know what I mean? And Onosho's been around longer than all the young guys.
Yeah, he's the old new guy.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the scary thing. Like, he went from being the youngest guy to, he's middle-aged now for sumo.
Yeah. But so Onosho, similar to Hoshoryu, they're both going to be in the same boat come March. That they're going to shelve them about a slot below Sanyaku, and they're going to go show us what you got. And that will be his charge in March. And so this is what's going to be interesting about next tournament, is that a lot of these people are going to be under starters orders. Yeah. And then they're either going to come out of that racing, where's this analogy going? Never mind. Good. Onosho, do 10-5, he's in Sanyaku in March. Done. So, Chiyoshima, Megashira 5 West. You look at the 4 and 11 and you're like, ooh, this was terrible. But this rank does not describe the output and the performance.
Right. He was not getting dominated. No. He just lost a lot of fights. He was just outmatched in a lot of fights.
He's outmatched in fights. So, somebody you never would... I wouldn't... If you told me Terunofuji versus Chiyoshima
was going to be a match.
Was going to be a crazy match where Chiyoshima is this close. I'm doing the pinky and thumb
together.
This close to winning. I would be like, you're out of your mind. Terunofuji's just going to grab him and throw him across.
He's just going to grab him by the neck and just...
Yeah, he's going to vault him. But no, Chiyoshima gets real close. Had a game plan, had the hunger. He believed he could have won the way he was fighting. So...
Well, he could have been 6-9, but two guys decided to play his game against him.
This is sort of the...
I shouldn't laugh, but it's like, now you understand, Chiyoshima, why people don't like the Henka.
There is some of this. So, I feel like Chiyoshima is in his own joke.
Yeah, and he was kind of smirking a bit.
Also, like, Chiyoshima, I'd say Chiyoshima, Takarafuji, Okinomi, sort of looking at Sadanaomi towards this. Like, it's a group of people, like, I feel like they're here for the love of the game.
Of course.
They're not. So, Chiyoshima getting a 4-11, first off, like, magnificent performance. Great fighting. Old tricks, new tricks. Sometimes the tricks are used against him. It's like, Chiyoshima's just like, who cares?
Right, it's like a rough day on the job. It's everybody's getting the best of me all of a sudden.
Yeah, but so I see the 4-11. Honestly, I see the 4-11. I'm like, that's a problem for people about Megashira 8. Because he's going to start throwing them around. So, like, you look down the list, and you're just like, okay, bad news for Ishiura, who's about to get some more Henkas. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Bad news for Wakamoto Haru, who's about to see what the old wily fox is up to today. So, now, to be fair, I'm just a font of boundless optimism when it comes to Chiyoshima, because, like, there's nothing about what he's doing that makes any sort of sense. So you just accept the splendor of the veteran who knows every trick in the book.
Well, we'll see how long. I mean, he doesn't look like somebody who's slowing down anytime soon.
No, and that's the emphasis on the 4-11. Like, you see Okinomi's 4-11, you're just like, this guy was injured. This guy may have a problem. It's like, I want to be optimistic for Okinomi, and it's just like the knee's fine, and he's fine, but maybe the knee's not fine. Maybe he's not fine. I look at the 4-11 for Chiyoshima, I'm just like, bad day at the office.
Well, not only that, I think Megashira 5 is very high for him.
That's true.
I mean, he sort of like had a couple of excelling tournaments, and then it's like, you don't belong here.
Yeah, well, you never. Hey.
Well, that's my initial feel. I mean, he's going to drop pretty far with a 4-11.
He'll drop. Just, would have been interesting if he got that.
I mean, because look at. Well, actually, he may not. Well, we'll see. A lot of the lower guys performed very well.
There's a bit of a feast or famine that you look at a group of people, you're like, ooh. But anyway, Chiyoshima, well done. Please stick around. So, Hoshoryu going places with that 11-4. So he started out 3-3. I took my eyes off him because I'm like, Hoshoryu he still hasn't gotten it together. Right.
My focus was on what's going to happen at the top and whatever.
So, like, I was looking at the top. I was looking at the bottom. Hoshoryu was just low enough that he really wasn't going to be touching anything. I'm like, whatever. And then he goes 11-4. I'm like, what?
Like, he was fighting out of his mind at the end of the tournament.
God, that's the techniques, the aggression, like I'll say the calm focus, even though there's no calm. But like
there's raging fires inside of that man.
The ability to put a lid on that raging fire was the key to a guy who, as I mentioned before, he could be Sanyaku with that 11-4 at Megashira 6. I can see them doing that. I really think that they're going to give it to Ura.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna want to motivate him.
They're gonna motivate him a little bit, and now he did have the bump henka. Here's what. It's a weird so he hits Takanosho on the shoulder to angle himself.
Right.
And then he grabs the belt and throws. So it's a weird.
It's a henka, not henka.
That's how Kintamiyama described it.
Yeah.
And. So there's some technique in it, but also at the same time, it's just like, I still gotta call these out. But still, like, you call that a loss. You say Takanosho beats him off the dohyo. That's still a 10-5, by the way.
Right. Well,
that's still double digit.
Leo does bring up the Torii no Aoshi against Shodai. How epic was that?
Yes. So this is the. It almost doesn't matter. So in the replay for Hoshoryu doing that. The reason Hoshoryu didn't go out is because he allowed himself to go face first into the dirt. And
that tells you something about...
So the slow motion on him was It was so it felt like we were watching some sort of like a beach comedy, and somebody's like going face first into the dirt, and they're like, no. But he like his hands were up, his neck was extended, and he goes right into the dirt. And because he held it off that extra half second, they do the redo, and he just blasts Shodai out.
If we're gonna do any more anime comparisons, I was feeling some Vegeta moments there where it's like, I will get myself destroyed to win this fight. I don't care.
Then he had a cut on that forehead for the rest of the tournament after that. So like he was bleeding off of it on the during the redo, and then when he beat Aoyama, he was bleeding that same spot. So like he literally bled for that win.
He's hardcore.
So
I have to say.
So Hoshoryu, please. Just like next tournament 8-7. That's all you need.
Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't like. He's gonna go nuts. But like, if he gets 8 and wins in March, he's in Sanyaku.
Somebody tell his uncle not to show up. It wrecks it for him.
Hide Asashoryu's phone.
Yeah, like don't read Twitter. None of it, because look at how good he is when he's left alone and the spotlight isn't on him.
Yeah. So talking about people who are not left alone, Abi. So here's our. When I was writing my notes, I will say day 12. I'm like, Abi is positioned to be the next Ozeki.
Yeah.
The next new Ozeki is going to be Abi. And then I cross it off and I'm like, here's the second new Ozeki this year.
Right.
Abi. Because we said this before. He came in, he was 11-4, lower down. And we just said double-digit wins in January, and he's in Sanyaku. And double-digit wins, including positioning himself for a 3-man playoff.
The reality is, Abi was already Sanyaku before he had the whole, suspension thing. He had made a comment in some interview, I don't remember where I heard it from, where he realizes that his career could have been over. They could have accepted his retirement papers, and it was done. So he's almost fighting in bonus time right now.
Yeah. So
it's the same as Terunofuji in the sense that Terunofuji ascends to a certain level. It's like, let's just keep going because I shouldn't even be here. So Abi, he's a new man, if you ask me.
He's changed. A lot of the change for the better. He's stronger. So his ability to do techniques while running backwards
is insane.
It's mind-boggling. This is not something he was doing consistently prior to his COVID wrist slap.
He was very Onosho-ish.
He was all forward, and if he was going back, it was a problem. Now back then he did have good ring edge sense. Which
he had the ballet thing.
He had the ballet thing going on. He had really good balance. He does when he does the foot stamps, the foot goes over the head. So he did have that, but when he does it this time, like he stays in the ring and he just like matador people out. And that level of not just moving backwards. So like he's got 400 pounds of wrestler coming at him. His 400 pounds of wrestler is moving backwards, can then turn on a dime, chuck a person, all while running in a half second.
And he's still on his tippy toes.
Still on his tippy toes. So I said Abi won by Abi A or Abi B. Abi A is he just blasts people out. Abi B is the blasting people out doesn't work for whatever reason. He moves backwards, uses the ring, uses pivots, just really good balance to get the job done.
And he's got that Nodowa down pretty good.
He does.
It feels like your head is in fact going to snap off.
It looks like it's a decapitation. So Abi going places.
Yeah.
Abi Sanyaku easy. Abi gonna go for if he does nothing but double-digit wins, he's Ozeki by September.
Exactly. Now we'll have to see, but we've been talking about this for a while. The guys that are in sumo right now, excuse me, they're not good enough. We'll see what happens with Takayumi, but they're not good enough to replace the people who were there before. Abi was not in that category. He was out of it. And he had all this time to make himself a new wrestler. A lot of these guys could use like a tune-up.
Yeah, I mean, old Abi did hit his ceiling. And sort of but this whole, the he took the 6 months suspension seriously. He rebuilt himself.
He's bigger
physically,
too.
like physically as well as mentally, as well as technique. So this is a very dangerous man who, again, Ozeki by end of year seems fairly safe bet and possibly higher. But we do need to see what the Ozeki curse does to him first.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown here. He is riding a momentum wave of coming back in and having so much success. What happens the first time he has a bad tournament?
Yeah, so we've got to see what happens. There's still some big questions to ask for Abi.
But we got to jump on the hype train because it's been a while since we've had some fresh blood.
He's gonna... He beat Terunofuji. He beat... The only people he lost to were Mitakeumi, Hoshoryu, and Onosho. So Onosho was interesting because that was just Onosho with the really fast timing and knowing to get inside.
And I hope Abi learned from that.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Abi loses to Terunofuji, trying this one technique. Second time he fights Terunofuji, completely different game plan, exploits Terunofuji's knees, and throws him out.
Well, one of the things he said in his new form is that he studies hours and hours of tape. He's a much more serious guy. He was one of the least serious guys in the entire thing. He was causing all kinds of trouble long before the coronavirus thing. Now, trouble in Japanese standards. In America, it'd be like, yeah, that's what they all do. But that's aside. He's serious enough now that if he can, not get his weaknesses exploited, then he could go places.
So, we'll talk about Takayasu really quickly. His presence was missed, and we had mentioned this before, that Takayasu fighting some of the Sanyaku, some of the people above would have
changed the
balance. I'm hoping that he's resting up, that this is the COVID bye, and he takes this and comes back.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a plus side to having the COVID bye. Yeah. There was never a bye before.
There's never a bye, so he gets a rest week. So, but anyway, Takayasu, we'll hope to see you back. Takano Fuji, I feel we had him on our watch list. I'm taking him off the watch list.
He's off the caution list.
He's off the caution list. That 9-6. So he was, again, that 9-6. That was an 8-2. Very comfortable. Took his foot off the gas pedal a little bit, maybe, but at the same time, fighting comfortably and also fighting Mitakeumi, Kotonowaka, Takanosho. Well, the Takanosho fight was sort of a coin flip, but anyway. Good, solid sumo, still very defense-oriented, but the patience and the decisiveness that was sort of gone has come back.
Right, he was starting to flail a little bit in the last couple tournaments where it's like he just wasn't patient like he usually is, or he would get tired out, and I was starting to worry.
The problem with Takafuji's style is that because he's so defense-focused, sometimes there's no offense, and then people just whittle him down. But here, like, it was defense, but like then he had the sense. He's just like, okay, now I attack. Okay, you're doing this, I could take advantage now. So that pivot was there. Now it could also be, and we had meant a lot of the veterans have this, like the 9 to 6, 9 to 5 is like that's the veterans like sweet spot because that's about as high up as they can go comfortably. So. Sort of, we'll observe Takafuji how he deals with what likely is going to be Megashira 4-5.
Right. Once he goes up, that's where the real test is.
Yeah. Hideno Umi, I have not heard anything outside of. I think he was just caught gambling at some I think it was in like some sort of a illegal gambling thing. Like they didn't have their license or something. I haven't heard anything about it. He's going to Juryo, at least.
Or they'll ask him to retire.
Or he retires. So, sort of, it's bad news or worse news for Hidenomi. I have personally not heard anything.
Yeah, it's been silent.
It's not, but usually when it comes to these kinds of things, they do wait until the tournament's over.
Because they don't want to take anything away.
So, I would imagine in the coming weeks, we will hear in the news.
Chris Sumo will give it to us.
Chris Sumo, there'll be, if you follow Nikon Sports or any of the other tabloids in Japan, you'll get it there too. But anyway, Hidenomi... Well, to be determined. Expect the worst, hope for the best. Tobizaru, the brother, did not seem to lose any momentum due to the brothers' woes, as we feared. He goes flying on wins and losses alike. I feel like Tobizaru is making himself a fixture, and that his brand is not to do well. His brand is to be Tobizaru. And what summed it up for me of everything that happened, besides the fact that he would be in the stands at least 7 or 8 of the matches. I didn't count that. I feel like I wish I should have. Maybe I'll do that next time.
Yes, we should have a countdown.
I'll keep a stand count of how many times he goes out of the ring and goes flying.
And then you should have a count of how far back.
How far? Yeah. Does he reach the back of it? Yeah.
It's like the long jump contest.
For me, everything that summed up Tobizaru was when he fought Hoshoryu. That fight is always very interesting because he's really good at frustrating Hoshoryu. He doesn't really win, but he gets Hoshoryu going, and he prolongs the match, and Tobizaru, for no real reason outside of the fact that he could and nobody could stop him, he slaps Hoshoryu hard in the face.
That was something.
And it was one of, like, you. This is a pretty typical, like, there's a pause, then there's a slap, and then the crowd goes, ooh.
Well, particularly, it's like you're going to slap Hoshoryu
So,
in the
it's
face.
like, first off, it's Hoshoryu, somebody he doesn't really have a good record against. Secondly, it's Hoshoryu, a guy you don't want him mad at you. And Tobizaru's just like, try and stop me. I'm Tobizaru. If I want to slap this man, I'm going to slap him. He may throw me to the ground fairly violently and then stare bloody murder into me until I physically leave his line of sight. I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, I mean, look at how he fought Hakuho in that one match he had. Like,
oh my gosh.
Tobizaru doesn't care.
That was Tobizaru's gift to sumo.
I know. Some people were so mad about it, but it's like, look at Tobizaru in the context of being an entertainer. Sure, he's a sumo wrestler, but he's there to entertain.
Yeah, so for me, now we always did talk about this. There's some credence to it about, is Tobizaru really...
Is he really an upper division?
Is he an upper division guy? Is he destined for greatness? Where is his ceiling? The answer to that is that Tobizaru is going to do whatever the hell he wants, and he doesn't care what I think about it. And with a 6-9, that is enough wins to stay indefinitely.
Yeah, especially when you have all these guys at the bottom who had train wreck tournaments.
Oh goodness.
He's got a very safe cushion.
He's fine. He is fine, and he will continue to be fine. So...
He's the only guy who smiles in his picture, too.
I think Earl may have one. Well, anyway. Bless your heart, Tobizaru. This was a tournament that I'm like, it doesn't matter if he belongs. It doesn't matter if he does well. None of it. He doesn't care.
Everybody wants to see him fly out of the ring.
Win or lose. Like, he has a belt grip. And he goes flying on people.
I know. It's a simple Yuri Cutie, and he's like, woo! He needs a cape.
He does. And a mask.
Yes. He should come down like one of those Japanese wrestling guys, just fully decked out in sequins and...
Bless you, Tobizaru. So, Shonokuni will also receive my blessing, but in a sort of like a... May the gods have mercy on your soul.
Yeah.
So anytime anybody has that 0-10, I'm like, please just win one.
Yeah.
Please.
Don't make it like a complete wash.
Yeah, this was the same, like Ono Show had this, Koto Shoho had this, that real absolute disaster. So, good news for Chionokuni, enough people did bad below him that he's not out of the top division. But
he needs a COVID bye.
He needs a COVID bye. He was injured as hell. He could not output power.
He's our Ikioi of this generation.
Looking like he's just hobbled together with duct tape. That if you take those bandages off, his limbs will fall off.
Yeah, and he still fights, and he's still in it, and he still tries to put on a match, and I hate watching it.
It's rough.
Because I like him so much.
Yeah, so he's back in the danger zone in March.
Maybe he'll, rise to the challenge.
Rise to the challenge. Just a real bad time. So... Where a lot of people will have a very memorable January, will be building off of this, he needs to just start from scratch.
Yeah, this is
start from scratch.
This is like the Ono show.
This is an Ono show.
Yes.
So Shimano Umi, rough time, or was already struggling a little bit. A little slower off the half step. Might have been fighting injured. And
I was going to say, I wonder if he was already injured.
I feel like he was already fighting injured, and then it just became too much. So, similar to Chionokuni, enough people below him are worse off that I think he'll be okay. But still not a good scene. But the some of the wins that he did have, he still had that grit and focus. He still put it together, like against Teruchiyoshi. There's a couple people who did this. Like, he was just like, I'm going to stare at Teruchiyoshi until he screws up.
Right, exactly.
Keep him at arm's length.
Are you going to blink?
Nothing's going to stop me. Teruchiyoshi spins all over the place. Shimanomi's just like, down. Bad dog. So, Shimanomi still's got it, just injured. So we'll have to keep an eye on him. And I'm just gonna go right through these injuries real quick. 3 people in a row injured.
The tournament of injuries.
There was a lot of people who were out, and there's a lot of people who were fighting hobbled. So Myogiryu starts out okay, 4-0. We're like, okay, we're like, okay, he'll be bouncing back up. Then he gets 5 losses in a row. We're like, I guess that's Myogiryu being Myogiryu. And then he Kyujos with a pulled something, and then he does the Midori Fuji and comes back, and we're like, why are you back?
It's not doing any good.
It's not doing you any good. Still spirited sumo, still the veteran sense, still don't take your eyes off him. But for Myogiryu, injuries are very bad.
He needs to heal.
I think this 10 East, this is going to be the absolute razor's edge of staying in. And then everybody else below is in problems. And we're going to start the problems with, unfortunately, with Aqua, who I feel like some of this is my responsibility because I was talking him up a lot. And I told him, it's like, just do some more judo stuff and everything will be fun. So he takes the green belt off, problem 1.
Uh-huh.
And then he just dry fires judo techniques. So I think at least 4 of his matches, if not more, were him trying some crazy throw.
And it just backfires.
And it backfires. And with these kinds of throws, you need to set them up. You need to get the guy off balance. You need to have a certain positioning. But Aqua was just like, let's do the judo throw. And then he falls on his face. And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, you really hurt me, too, because I was doing Sumo Fantasy. And I'm like, I'm going to pick Aqua. He destroyed my bracket. Among others that I picked. So
not just, yeah.
I'm like ready to turn in my commenting card on this bout. I mean, it wasn't pretty.
So the 4-11 may put him in Juryo. And so I'm going to look at everybody and I'm going to talk about, for all the people who lost, like, their chances of going down. Because we'll talk about Juryo in a little bit when I go on to this, but I think we're going to have 4 or 5 people coming up, which means that 4 or 5 people need to go down. Good news for a lot of people, Hidenoumi is already one of them, so all these people get a bye.
Yes.
From this point forward, now we're looking at 4 to 3 people going down. And Aqua may be on that bus. Sada Naomi's not on that bus, even though he came close.
He's fighting really good.
He is. He had a bit of a collapse. It could have just been exhaustion. Now, of note is that they did throw him to the wolves a little bit with Kota Nawaka and Ichinojo. Yutakayama should have beat him, but that's fine.
Yutakayama has a lot to fight for, though.
We'll see.
I mean, like, his heart is
his heart's in it. He has his other problems. But Sadano, at 8 and 7, you're going up, and I have every reason to believe that Sada Naomi will continue to go up the way he was fighting. Tsuyoshi scrapes the 7 and 8 off the floor.
I don't know what is wrong with Tsuyoshi.
I feel like Tsuyoshi needs longer matches. Here's the weird
thing. I
thing.
agree with that.
Here's the weird thing. Tsuyoshi's biggest opponent is himself trying weird stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that's his bread and butter. And like when he does, like he did the leg pick, and it was, well, yeah, he did it against Takanosha, right? Was that last tournament? God, am I getting all this stuff conflated?
Somebody did the leg pick against Takanosha.
It was Ura.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Wasn't
the other leg pick guy? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, but he did some fun stuff. So the memorable, like the highlight reel, was he was grappled with Yutakayama. And he does, like, the spin move.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, as part of the spin, like, he didn't even plan to do this, maybe a little bit. But he does, like, the flourish with his arm.
I love the salt flick.
Like, the flick of Yutakayama as he finishes up. And it's like, that's peak Tsuyoshi. And if you look at it, he got inside. It was a grappling match. So he has the ability to work things through. So
but he needs time.
But he needs time. So he gets like the 5 to 6 seconds of grappling Utakayama to get the position, to get the foothold. Does the spin. So if Tsuchiyoshi can get spun up, no pun intended, he'll do great. Now, there are some people, like, if you wait too long, and this is also, like, there are some people, like, if you give them too much time, that they'll win instead.
True.
And that's also a problem, like Ishiura. You give Ishiura time against Tsuchiyoshi's going to lose. So that's when Tsuchiyoshi needs to, like...
Speed the match
up. Speed it up, guns blazing, take the risk, and then that's where he loses other matches. So he's in this bizarre, weird town that...
That's a little bit of the small man sumo dilemma.
This is his small man sumo problem, is that there are some matches he needs to put his foot on the gas and go. There are some matches that he needs to...
Be patient.
To let it boil and then go. And what he needs on what day and what he thinks he needs on what day... It's all weird.
That's the sumo sense.
It's the sumo sense. So like he's got the grappling sense. Like once he's in the thick of it, he's fine. But it's what card do you play off the Tachiya? And that is so important for him. Because it seems like he can't recover from some of the stuff he does.
Yeah, it's true.
But bless him for doing all of it. That's also what's weird. It's like nobody else is doing this crazy stuff.
I love watching Tsuchiyoshi fight Hoshoryu. Because they both look like they belong in a biker gang or something. Do. Like, I expect them both to come down with leather jackets and just, like, fist fight in an alley or something. Very similar thing going on, but Tsuchiyoshi doesn't have it figured out like Hoshoryu.
Not as cleanly.
Yeah, it's not clean.
So 7 and 8 means he's fine. It'll be ratcheting down a couple more. He is slow bleeding out, so he does need to figure it out eventually. Ishiura does not have to worry at all about anything.
Shocking.
Breakout tournament for Ishiura. So we're talking about the small man sumo, and there's the narrow margin for error, and you got to get it done just right. Ishiura did it just right.
He was doing every technique in the book. This was like old Ishiura, the Ishiura that I fell in love with the very first time I saw him. The very first small man that I saw in my time with sumo.
He didn't just win, like he won in like flashy ways. He's doing throws. He's doing pivots, and he's making it look easy.
He even out-muscled a bunch of guys.
Yes.
Because he's a little muscle guy.
He's still a strongman guy, yeah. So Ishiura, he had the complete package. This is just like one of the biggest surprises.
We had been talking about him a lot, like with Hakuho out now.
Yep.
Was he going to take his place as the senior guy in the stable?
If this tournament is of any signification, he did. And I want this Ishiura, this version of this human being. This guy is like a Sanyaku contender.
I really hope that he keeps this up. We've never seen him stay consistent. This is my New Year's wish, that Ishiura has turned a corner. This is the new Ishiura. I want to see him fight tougher and tougher competition.
Yeah. So Ishiura, in this way, he's very similar to Takayumi, in that both of them are people that you've always been rooting for them, but then sort of lost hope.
Yeah.
And now we have this reason to hope again. So bring on the new hope for Ishiura, definitely. I for one would love to see him do this kind of stuff to Kirabayama, to Ichinojo.
That'd be awesome.
Put a little fire under them. I want it.
I'll say this. One of my favorite moments is Ishiura because he's a real serious guy.
Yep.
Walking back, and Hakuho standing there, and they each give each other the nod.
The nod.
I want to, screenshot that and, put that somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Where I can look at it when I need inspiration.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
When Magaki Oyakata
gives
you the nod.
The silent nod.
The nod. He's just like, mm-hmm.
We did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know that made his heart swell.
Oh, God.
Because he's all this time, him and Hakuho, long before Enho was really involved, Ishiura and Hakuho were...
That was them.
That was the mentor-protege situation.
So, back to being sad for a little bit. Chiyotairyu... So, the 7 and 8 is like a desperation 7 and 8. Chiyotairyu, he is becoming...
I was shocked he pulled it off.
I absolutely did not expect him to get those last 3 wins. So, bless him for getting them. But this is like a desperation 7 and 8. He is becoming more and more one note as time goes on. He's doing the same things. And like it's sort of like that's all he can do. So I can't really tell him to go do something different. And because when he did try to do something different,
it didn't work.
It didn't work. So now he's just like, I've got no cards. So it is step 1, strong Tachiai. Step 2, try a slap down. Step 3, if those don't work, just figure it out in the ring with no idea. He did. So again, 7 and 8. He's probably going to stay. It's probably just safe enough.
I think so. There's enough guys who really
he's on the downward trend, and I don't know how he's getting out of it.
Yeah, he's not fighting well enough. Like, it's just a foregone conclusion at this point. He's not fighting well enough to stay. Which is so weird when you look at the next guy.
So you look at Chiyomaru, exact same, like, you look at them, like, on paper. It's like they're both 7 and 8, they're both veterans, they're both on the way down, but, like, Chiyomaru had such a much better quality sumo.
Yeah, at first it looked like he was going to be, at least 8 and 7, maybe 9 and 6, then it fell apart.
So they keep doing Chiyomaru dirty. They give him Wakataka Kage and Ura at the end.
Yeah, why?
That's a bit meanie.
Yeah, why did they do that?
But
must be how it all shook out.
It's how it shook out. So maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe Chiyomaru just can't catch a break. Cause
no, he's a jovial guy. Look at that smile.
That is. I mean, he was Jolly Sumo
before there was anybody else.
Yeah. So like he shared the crown with Kiseyama for the brief time we had him. But it's that same positive energy. So. Like, I'm hoping he stays around. I think the 7 and 8 gives it to him, and then there's enough people that will do worse. Like, Yutakayama.
Oh, that actually hurts, though.
So, there's an extra wrinkle to Yutakayama, which he doesn't need any more wrinkles.
No.
So, you mentioned before about, like, the Ikkyoi style taped together with Shonokuni. Yutakayama did the Ikkyoi style standing up busted when he hit the ground this tournament. This is something new for him. That he would do the wincing, slowly pulling himself up off the ground, win or lose. And this is on top of the already existing issues of, beating himself up mentally. Starting on day 2, Chiyomaru, he loses against him, he punches the ground. I'm like, this is way too early to start this, man.
Right, like, he must have come into this tournament either full of frustration or got injured right beforehand and was like, I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know. Yeah, so he still has the power. He still has the drive. But, so he already had he's having the mental toughness issues. There is some sumo sense issues. Like, he'll run himself out. He'll do some of that. And now we've got the injuries are making him a rickety shack issue. He's
one of those guys that he's probably not ever going to get past his injuries.
He's not. He's hitting the point that there's too much stuff.
Right. It's just not coming together. But I want to say, he's one of the nicest men in sumo. I forget who he knocked off the dohyo, but he, ran.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, him, both Yutakayama and Shionokuni would leave the ring, jump down.
To make sure you're
okay. So these guys are really nice. There was a lot of checking in on fellow wrestlers this time around. Part of it, I think, is that a lot of people are injured. You got to keep an eye on people. Also, a lot of people going out of the ring, by the way. Not just Tobizaru.
Yeah, that's happening a lot more.
And I think in some lower division matches from Chris Sumo's reporting, there are some people who were pulled out in stretchers. So there might have been a little bit of
and there was a wrestler who died.
There's a bit of a dread, I feel, that whenever somebody goes out, a lot of people are like, ooh, gotta make sure. So, but always nice to see the sumo community. This is a part of the sport that's very warming.
Yeah, you can go in there and beat each other up into a bloody pulp, but when the match is over, you have the respect and maybe even friendship. Not always the case with friendship, but
yeah, but there's at least the respect, except for Hoshoryu, who will murder you straight.
He's got to have some friend in sumo.
He's got to have friend. Yeah, he knows how to play with cards, right? So Yutakayama may be on the way out with the 6 and 9, but somebody also not on the way out. So Kota Nowaka 11 and 4. So good to see. Not just because he did super well, super strong. Beats Takanosho, beats Tamawashi. Who else did he beat? Pretty high up in there. Well, they threw him to the wolves and he was fine. That's the point. Also, the fact that he did this before. He did really, really well. He climbed high.
We thought something was going to happen.
And then there was a tumble. The tumble was the injury.
Right.
This is my takeaway for Kota Nowaka, is that it's not that he was... There might have been some mental issues, some pressure, some nerves, but this tells me... Because, again, he was 11-3. Like, if he had beat Abi, that would have been him in the Yusho playoff.
Right, he was that close.
He was there. And that is all just good, clean, knows how to do the sumo, does pushes, does belt, does pull downs.
I mean, he was supposed to be one of the up-and-comers, and he just sort of faded out.
He faded out a bit. There is some nerves, there is some mental regrouping, but the last fall, he pulled out in September, I think, with an injury. Didn't do so well in November, and that sort of got us concerned because we're like, uh-oh, we hoped that he'd be better, but he wasn't doing as well, but he was also all taped up. And now this is the he's back at it. So
let's hope for a bright future for him.
Yes.
Where he competes to the level that we had expected for him.
This is him. We're re-racking for the greatness. For
right
Kota
now,
Nowaka.
but now he's a variable because we hadn't been counting him into the scheme. So now March, could he potentially be somebody who makes a splash?
Yeah.
That would be excellent.
So we've got Kota Nowaka, and now we've got Ishira making his way up. And not a lot of other people. I'm going to stop scrolling before I get sad.
Yeah. Tears.
So let's talk about people going to Juryo, like Ichi Yamamoto, who had a complete collapse after what was, by all rights, just...
A good start.
He was 4-3, doing fine, just getting his footing back after... Didn't he win the U-Show on the way up here? We're like, oh, this guy's...
I thought he was going to, be...
I was like, he's making a statement that this is where he belongs. And then he is this.
I actually expected Ichi Yamamoto to be Kota Nowaka.
Yeah.
I thought those records would be swapped.
Yeah, he... At some point, starting here with Oho, he just inability to output power. All of these matches that he lost, these 7 losses, he did the same things he always did. He'd go for belts, he would push, he would thrust, but then nothing happened to the person he was fighting. I don't know what caused this. Maybe he was injured, maybe just he didn't have his sense was knocked out of him.
I mean, he could have not had enough endurance. He doesn't have a lot of experience being in the upper division.
It's just it sucks that he's going to go right back to Juryo, but if you fight like this,
you're not ready for the
I'm sorry.
the big leagues.
I feel like I'm just like, could I have cheered for him more? I feel like this is a me problem. I don't know why. But I look
you just care too much.
I look at the 5 and 10. I'm like, how did I fail you, Ichi Yamamoto? Why did the power not? I could have sent him a care pack. I don't know.
He was sort of we thought Hoshoryu was going to collapse and that he was going to do good, and then it was Hoshoryu's like, nah, I got this. And Ichi Yamamoto's like, what do I do?
I don't. It's so weird. He's losing. I gotta let it go. I gotta move on with my life. I'm sorry, Ichi Yamamoto. I'll see you. Go back to Juryo, beat people up, come back.
Yeah, I'm sure he just needs a tune-up.
I'll see you in May. We'll go with that. We'll see you in May. So, Wakamoto Haru, this guy, here's our newbie.
I was hoping for good things for him, and I'm glad that he actually did.
Interesting to see the distinction in their fighting style between Wakataka Kage and Wakamoto Haru. Wakataka Kage, all grit, all small man, big muscle. Wakamoto Haru, bigger belt guy.
Yes.
So they're like a yin and a yang. So I expected a little bit of Takakage and the Moto Haru, but they're just different wrestlers.
Which is very exciting.
I see it as a positive. Yeah,
just to have that variety of new wrestlers who are coming up.
And so there was a confidence to him. He got a 2 and 4. But then he turns it around. Does have anytime you get the freebie, it's always a nice thing. But again, if this was a loss, he'd still be Kachikoshi. He didn't need this.
Right, exactly.
So there's a confidence in this 9 and 6.
Well, I'm sure he's looking up at his younger brother.
It's gotta be part of. There's that dynamic.
We always talk about that X factor, that extra motivation that gets a guy going. When you get up and you're tired and you've been doing this for a while, what makes you say, I don't care, I have to fight just that much harder?
Much harder.
And it's seeing your younger brother reaching these heights.
Yep.
And wanting to be there too.
Wanting to be lockstep. So, welcome to the top division. He's still on the older side, but I think there's potential here. We'll see how far he goes.
Not everybody is going to do it, quote unquote, the right way, which is come in young and get a high rank real quick. But that is the tendency. But hey, you can always have surprises.
Okay, we'll see. A lot of potential here. So, Tochinoshin, I think everything that we've said about him in the past still applies.
He's just hanging on by a thread.
Good news here is that he was 7-7 going into the last day. And that he gave us a really good fight with Ichinojo.
They might keep him in. They've been very favorable to him.
I see this 7-8 keeping him in.
Yeah.
I don't see him taking the tumble. And so the people I do see taking the tumble are Hideno Umi with his gambling issues. Ako with the 4-11. Ichiyama with the 5-10. Yutakayama might get the bye. Tsurugisho with the 6-9. Ooh, I forgot about Oho. Oh.
Yeah, he's gonna go.
Oh, gosh. Oh, I feel bad.
You shouldn't have scrolled down. You weren't ready.
I was not ready for that. God. Okay, so...
But it's positive that Tochinoshin might have escaped yet again. He's
escaped. The 7-8 will give him a new leash. They may leave him at 15 West, honestly. The way that everything is.
Yeah, they might.
So he's fine. But Tochino... Georgian Strongman, God bless. Every time I see him, I'm like, bless your heart.
It doesn't matter what his record is. It's just awesome to see him.
So, Aoyama...
He scraped by.
This concerns me. This is a... Well, so he gets 8 so he was 8-5, so that was kind of nice. But if that was a 9-6, I'd be a little less concerned. But this 8-7, his gas tank issues were more pronounced. His desperation pulls were almost immediate. This is bad. He's heading
in the wrong direction.
I am more worried for Aoyama than I am for Tochinoshin at this point.
Yeah.
Even though this guy's going down and this guy's going up. But...
Because there's something in Tochinoshin where he still got it enough. Aoyama seems like he's losing.
He's losing. There's more and more getting shaved off of him. So all he needs is just a double-digit win, and he'll buy another leash in the top division. And to be fair, March is his Basho. He does really well in March for whatever reason.
So
there's optimism here, but I really, if this was a 9-6, I would have felt so much better than the 8-7.
It really depends on, he has a lot of the back issues and things like that. So if it's something that flares up versus an injury that doesn't go away, he could be fine.
Yeah.
Hard to say though, because we don't know
the details. But at least going upwards a little bit more. So Tsurugisho definitely going down with the 6-9. So I think the 7-8, and he still would have been condemned. What they did on the last day is that they gave him the Juryo guy, and Ko Tokuzan is one of the people coming up. They made
him fight for his place.
They like the Darwin matches. They also like the musical chairs fights.
Yeah.
Where they make you fight for the seat. So if the 7-8 was already not condemning, the losing to a guy from Juryo on the last day is all but the nail in the coffin for Tsurugisho. And his he was this 0-4 here. This was him just doing nothing.
Yeah, and then he started to get a little fight in him where he was
a little bit of fight,
a little bit of desperateness.
Basically the 6 wins are the 6 times he decided to fight. Now he could have fought some of those losses. He did put the effort in, but it really felt like he was not here more than he was, and that hurts because he also just came back. There's a couple people like Tsurugisho. I'm like, oh, it's the resurgence, but back down he goes.
Right, you don't want to see a guy come up after all that fighting, and it's and he's back down.
He's back down again. So that sucks. So positive note.
Finally, a positive note.
So the losing 5 of your last 6 less so, but he was 8-3.
Wow,
He took a tumble. He took
a tumble.
He took his foot off the pedal. I feel like it was a relief for like he got 8-5. He was 8-3. He's just like, oh, thank God.
Now I can just chill.
So then once as soon as the urgency was gone, he couldn't get it together. Now, they did sort of give him some bad fight.
But he lost to Chionokuni. Now, not to diss Chionokuni, but it's like he's so injured and it's the last day of the tournament. That is just not.
So he was so if you cut this at day 11, he was 8-3. He had figured out his small man, strongman sumo. He was spirited. He was making his power felt. So again, 8-3 Koto Echo is in a really good place, and I really feel good about him. 8-7 Koto Echo, I'm like, oh.
Right, what are you gonna do next tournament?
Him and Aoyama are in the same spot, and that if either one of these guys were 9-6, just one more win, and I wouldn't feel worried. Now for Koto Echo, he earned that, and we were afraid he was going to completely fall apart
because he was so terrible the last couple of tournaments.
He figured something out, and that's the positive for Koto Echo. They figured at least something out, but where he goes from here now is a little bit more of a question mark if this didn't happen. These 4 losses right now these are going to hang over me like an albatross until he gets something a little more decisive.
Yeah, because it shows excuse me. It shows that he didn't completely turn the corner.
Yeah.
At first it seemed with that 8-3, okay, whatever was going on is over. He's back to fighting his fight. And then he loses like that, and it reminds you of where he was. So it's like, when March starts, is he going to begin the way he ended?
Yeah, it's positive, but with a bitter aftertaste. A little too much lemon in the lemonade.
Yeah. But now, is March... March is not in his hometown. It's November.
It's November. That was what made November such a disaster for us, is that he did so poorly in his hometown.
I'm guessing he doesn't like that pressure.
Maybe not. So I'm going to try to stay positive. Kachikoshi, he's moving up. He's not going to Juryo, which we feared.
We thought that was happening.
Unfortunately, now it's a stay of execution rather than a pardon.
Yeah, exactly.
That we wanted, but. So now the rest of this list is just going to be sorrow and crying. Kaisei did his best, did his brand of sumo, slow man, strong man, doing what he can, turns his ankle on day 11, Kyujo day 12, and that's the story of him. My last hope is that he rebounds from Juryo, but that's that now. He's out of it now.
He's somebody who could very well stay in Juryo for the rest of his career.
Mm-hmm. He could do it. He can be like Shohozan. He can be like Dayamami, like Yago. That he's just gonna open up a new office down there.
Yeah, exactly. Get your official title, Juryo wrestler.
Juryo veteran.
That's if he. I mean, it was just an ankle.
Yeah. So this is the hope. This is my Kaisei fan hope coming out. That it was just an ankle injury. It wasn't the back. It wasn't something serious. He just turned it. He was moving backwards. When you're running and you turn your ankle.
Yeah, exactly.
Do that, but you're 450 pounds. That's what happened to Kaisei. So,
right,
a couple weeks, he'll be fine. In theory, and then he's a top division guy fighting in Juryo, which means he
should have some easy matches.
Fingers crossed on that. Or he was already on the way out. Is what we already knew. Then the common sense sort of seeps in, and
Well, you just don't want that feeling of dread creeping in, because you know what it means.
Yeah, but as I had mentioned in the beginning, Kaisei being on this list in January was already the present. Was already more than I thought I would get. So I'm okay.
You're okay.
I'm okay. That's what I'm going to tell people.
You say that, and then the Banzuke comes out, and you might weep a little.
We'll weep now. Give me a moment.
I know, right? No, we can't. We're live.
We're live. No, I got no emotions on the dohyo.
That's right. Channel your inner Hoshoryu.
But, nice seeing you, Kaisei. So this.
Now that reminds me of the epic fall that Enho had.
This is a big problem. So we were talking up here about how this was an 8-3 and it falls apart. This was a 7-3 that falls apart. So to be the talking optimism. This happened to Ichi Yamamoto first as well. He had a 7-3, and then he scraped it by in the last day to get that 8-7, and then he injured and fell out. So for Oho to get the 7-8, it's no, there's no good feeling.
Yeah.
There's no good feeling in this when you're 7-3. You're 7-3, making a statement. I belong to top division.
I was thinking really good things for him.
I was like, here comes a new challenger. I had a whole thing written up about how he's got the good sumo sense. He's got the swagger. This is the kind of person we want to see, and then he just loses 5 in a row.
Well, I mean, he's brand new.
This is my takeaway. This is the top division shakes because again, this is his first time. He came from Juryo like 7-8, so it was a big step up in a lot of ways. This is going to put him on Juryo 1.
Right.
So all he needs is an 8-7 and he's back, and then he's got all this top division experience under his belt. So short term suck, long term success.
Yeah, it'll give him something to work against. You know, like he's already had his first challenge, so he's not feeling like this is so easy. He might train way harder, work way harder, and have an even better result the next time he comes up.
So, I'm sorry this happened to you, but let's hope this is the building character moment.
You always need those.
You do need those. So now I'll talk about the Juryo flip over. So people coming up, Kageaki with the 8-7, barely.
Ugh, not looking
Nishiki coming back.
He's in that group of, Sadanoumi and Takada Fuji. And...
Well, he's gone for a while, so he's back. Koto Shoho with the Yusho in hand. Won it in the playoff, but...
Now, Koto Shoho is brothers with Koto no Waka, right? Or am I wrong about that? Same stable.
Koto Shoho does have a brother who is in the lower divisions.
Okay, got it. Those are just the two that I got.
So these three 100% going up, which means that we're going back here. Hidenoumi, Oho, and Kaisei are down.
Yep.
And then when it comes to Tsurugisho, Ichi Yamamoto, and well, actually by this point, everybody else is probably safe. That's when the speculation starts out. So Kotokuzan, probably a yeah. First off, he beat Tsurugisho for the musical chairs match. Juryo 4, double digits, pretty safe. 9-6 and an 8-7 at Juryo 5, I don't see it. But where we may get weird is, well, he lost 2, so maybe not so weird. But Tohakuri was in the Yusho for Juryo. So when this was a 10-3, I was like, they may pull him. I think a 10-5 makes this a little bit of a cleaner cut.
Yeah.
And that we're going to have 4 people. And now, again, this is all speculation. So I'm seeing Kotokuzan, and then Koto Shoho, Nishikigi, and Kageaki coming up. So that bops down Hidenoumi, Oho, Kaisei, and Tsurugisho. So good news for Tochinoshin. We haven't even gotten that far up. Now, they may do so again, Tsurugisho losing on the last day is probably the nail in the coffin, but it's the 5-10 versus the 6-9 dynamic.
Yeah, it depends.
But like these two people, there's no hope. There's no hope for Oho and Kaisei.
Right.
They're gone. And I'm pretty sure the Hidenoumi, they're just going to throw him.
Right, like
for causing
there's no hope for him either. Yeah.
So then if it's 4, it would be Ichi Yamamoto or Tsurugisho. I see them bumping Tsurugisho, and then Ichi Yamamoto is at like the bottommost rung.
Right, like they give him another shot.
And again, that was the winning on the last day against the handicapped opponent. So whatever. So I guess good news for you, Takayama, you're safe. Good news for Aqua and Myogiryu, and like this 4 groups of people who probably had nervous.
Yeah,
they're safe.
Yeah,
they're safe. They're just gonna be. They're
gonna be down at the very bottom.
There's gonna be a cluster of people. All 5 of them are gonna be right here.
Yep.
So that's what's gonna happen. So that's my take for what's gonna happen in Juryo. Special prizes. Abi gets outstanding performance.
Was that his first one?
I don't think so. Here, let's click him. Let's scroll up for Abi now. Look at all this scrolling.
Isn't that nice?
It's nice to see him all the way up there. We had Fighting Spirit for Koto no Waka, which I think was very well earned. And then the Technique Prize for Mitaki Yumi, which was also well earned. Fighting Spirit in November.
Okay.
And then the rest of this is him coming back.
Got it.
So he got the Outstanding Performance this time around in the Fighting Spirit in...
So it could be the first time he's gotten the Outstanding Performance Award.
They don't...
Yeah, they have him there. Yep, first time.
Oh, yeah, look at it there. Yep.
He's had a couple of Fighting Spirit ones.
Yes.
Now, I don't know that it matters one way. Like, I don't know that any of the prizes are better than any of the other prizes.
I think Outstanding Performance is the nice one.
Okay, that's like
speculation.
Because typically, if you get that, you're in the running for the tournament.
Yeah, Outstanding Performance, I think, is the you're fighting like you're in Sanyaku even though you're not.
Right. Whereas Fighting Spirit and Technique are almost like, you did good, kid.
Yeah. Well, Technique prize, I think, is just they needed to give Mitakeumi something. Now, to be fair, they could have given him Outstanding Performance as well, but well, whatever. So those are the prize awards. No real surprise that it goes to the people who are in Yusho contention. As I mentioned, Koto Shoho was a Jirio winner, so congratulations to him, and we'll see him back. That was going to be a long time coming for him.
Yeah, it'll be good to see the Kotos.
Yeah.
Koto Nowaka and Koto Shoho.
The Koto wave.
Different techniques.
That's...
That for the Technique prize.
Yes. That's a good call out. That's usually what they like seeing for the Technique prize specifically, that you're
trying all these different things.
You're doing different things. Well, the thing, it's hard to do 7 different things.
Exactly. Like, Takakeisho is never going to win the Technique prize.
So that would probably be the distinction between the two. So, maybe Outstanding Performance isn't just, the better one, but they give you the different ones.
Right, they all mean something.
They all mean something.
That it's very specific.
Yep.
Yeah, so with Takakeisho coming back, and he's going to be Kataban, so he's going to have to fight his hardest again. If he's not injured, he's going to be in playoff contention.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to have the drive both to clear the Kataban and show that he's Ozeki, but he wants to win tournaments.
He does.
He's not messing around like, oh, I'm Ozeki and I'm cool with it. All he thinks about is tournaments. Shodai, I don't know.
Well, I can see him losing Ozeki in March if he fights the way he did here.
I know, and I could see him fighting the way he did here.
I can see the extra pressure of Mitakeumi stepping up.
I want to stay very optimistic that Mitakeumi has, turned a corner.
Don't give Mitakeumi the stiff, which again,
I don't
see that happening.
But what's interesting about that is that in and of itself will give fresh blood to the tournament. The tournaments have been a little stale in terms of change. Terunofuji was dominating. The Sanyaku was kind of the same guys, and they were just doing their thing. And, we need to see the young guys have a place to go.
That it sort of helps to know that you're not going to get to Megashira 2 and then not get to Sanyaku, even if you get a 9-6. But
right.
knowing that Wakataka Kage is in, that Ura is in, that again Abi with the 12-3, there's nowhere else they're going to put him.
Don't you feel like it's been at least a year and a half or 2 years since there was such a shakeup in the top?
This is a shakeup. This is the shakeup that we were at least would be the precursor to what we want.
Right.
What we want is the sign of the new era to come.
Right. We want these Ozeki to become Yokozuna. We need new Ozeki. We need to see there's a path to the future.
Yes.
And since Hakuho, even before he retired, him going down the way he was, the future kept looking bleak. There's nothing there.
Stagnating. So we've got our hopes for the future going forward. So it's Wakataka Kage, mostly, with a little bit of an asterisk. A little bit of an asterisk. So beforehand, we were pretty high up on Wakataka Kage. It sounds like he's not quite ready to shoulder the burden.
But maybe it goes both ways, and his brother being there
helps.
Gives him extra motivation too.
Definitely, at least a contender. Ura, I'd say it's a little too soon to say that, but he will, strictly speaking, be in a position to start making a difference.
In either way, he's going to provide the entertainment we haven't had in a while.
He is.
Enho was sort of he was the placekeeper for that until he just... Enho is just too small.
If Enho comes out of Juryo, we may see a new person. But he's not... Him and Midori Fuji, they're too small. They're slumming it out.
Yeah.
So they're just going to sit on that. So Ono Show, I feel like March will be the real start for Ono Show.
Yeah, he's got to start over all the time.
This is the band of minstrels have arrived at the castle announcing the arrival of Ono Show. And so March is going to be Ono Show actually showing up.
Yes.
Hoshoryu needs no minstrels.
No, Hoshoryu sort of has presence.
So, and then Abi, like, if we're going to put money down, the money goes to Abi.
My money's on Abi, but I do have the small concerns.
There are concerns that we mentioned, yeah. So that, how does adversity take to new Abi? How will Abi handle... Like, beforehand, he had the spotlight as the up-and-comer, but then, once the narrative turns, and now you're the guy with the target on your back, like that's Wakataka Kage's problem. Is that he's like that. Well, this is basically what killed Mesa. Then he became the man to beat, not the man to root for.
Right, and when he's the underdog, he performs a little bit better than when he's the top dog.
And this is what was always so fascinating about how well Mitakeumi and Takanosho did, is that they were the people to beat for so long and stayed at least level. Now Mitakeumi has finally taken the step up. Takanosho's taking a step down, but not all the way.
He really needs some infusion of motivation or energy, or he needs something.
Yeah, he needs some angry blood.
Just a quick... Looks like there was a little bit of a mix-up here. Mitakeumi only won using 3 techniques. The technique prize isn't the most different techniques. It's who's had the best execution of techniques.
Oh, so it's a lot more subjective.
Yeah, like the Banzuke in a way.
Huh.
There's a lot... It's interesting how sumo can be so rigid, but yet full of subjective moves. It's almost like the ref controlling the game in some ways. Like even the way they call some of these redos or some of these matches, they leave room for subjectivity far more often than it would seem in such a rigid sport.
Well then, still, I will say, well done, Mitakeumi.
You've done what you've had to do.
You did it. Well, that is all we've been yelling at you to do this whole time. Get it done.
Literally been screaming for months. Do it!
Do it.
Do it!
Do it. So he 2 double-digit wins back-to-back. Yusho, 33 wins. Beats the Yokozuna on the last day.
Gonna get to see a nice, press conference in the next couple of days where they show up and he gives his Ozeki speech. And
get the Ozeki speech, holds the fish.
It's always fun for the fans. Well, and get Ozeki while you win a tournament. But it's always fun for the fans to see the next promotion. And it felt like there wasn't going to be one.
For a while. We were like, well, because if Abi's starting the application process in March. So, again, me saying him Ozeki in September is March, May, July... spotless, flawless, which then, as you had mentioned, what if he falls one off the pace? How does he handle that? If he does that, he's not going to be Ozeki until next year.
Right. We really do need to see what happens to him with adversity. And once again, I think with Taki Keisho coming back, he needs to have more matches with him in particular. Now, Abi is sort of He's one of the scariest fighters Taki Keisho can fight because they have the same exact style, but Abi has the longer limbs. So Taki Keisho has to get low, but then he has to avoid the slap down. But it's a great test to see where Abi's at. It's like the perfect training for him to fight Taki Keisho in a real match. So we need to see some adversity for Abi. We need to see what happens when he doesn't win. We need to see if some of his old bad habits pop up again. I mean, he is riding this momentum of all the good that's been going on. So we'll see, but I have very high hopes for him. I had high hopes for him before the suspension.
Yeah, and it is interesting because before the suspension he did seem to have the ceiling, and now we're like, I think he removed it.
I think he's ready to break through.
I think he's ready to break through.
And our last thing that we have to just think about is what shape will Terunofuji be in?
Yeah, that is going to be the big question mark, and we're not going to know that.
We're not going to know a single thing until the tournament starts.
Yeah, mid-March.
I could even see him actually pulling out.
I could see that too.
Because
I could see him.
What does he have to lose by pulling out?
Yeah, if he's not in 100% shape, I see him taking it off, and there's a precedent for it.
There's a precedent for taking years off
for it.
Yeah, so we'll have to see on that front. It will definitely make the March Basho stormy as ever, because now you have all this chaos and changes. But anyway, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you all for tuning in. It was